Hello and welcome. Thank you for listening. My name is Sarah Baumert. I'm a yoga teacher, Feldenkrais practitioner, and host of the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. The Sarah B. Yoga podcast and my practice, Body Matter, is an interdisciplinary learning space where we explore the many ways that movement can help facilitate body acceptance and awareness, reduce pain and stress, regulate the nervous system, and build strength and ease. My teaching plays with the synthesis of Feldenkrais awareness through movement lessons, traditional yoga asana, creative imagery, breathing exercises, self-massage, and a compassionate mindset to help you feel a greater sense of ease and comfort in yourself. Sarah B. Yoga and Body Matter have a lot of other program offerings. These podcasts are just a taste of my teaching. Each week I teach a range of online classes, including a gentle yoga class, a level 2 class for more advanced students, and Feldenkrais classes with monthly themes, anatomy lessons, and Q&A sessions for more in-depth study. I have 2 new online series offerings for the fall. A Feldenkrais series titled Coming to Your Senses, an exploration of the spaces of the eyes, the mouth, jaw, ears, vocal and breathing apparatus. And my second course, Wakeful Body, the blending of yoga and Feldenkrais on Monday nights. As one student recently described Monday nights, that felt like I just gave myself a massage. So these fall classes will be a continuation of some fan favorite stretching sequences that incorporate bolsters and other props to enhance the poses. There is still plenty of time to join these courses live or via the course recordings. You can find more information about these offerings in the show notes. Okay, on to today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hello, and welcome to the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. This podcast is an intersection of my yoga teaching and my training in the Feldenkrais method. Today's class is a 60-minute live class blending Feldenkrais and gentle yoga poses. In this class, we explore something I've been really interested in recently in my classes, and that is creating a sense of width in the body. Oftentimes, if our eyes have a more narrow focus, which tends to happen when we're looking at a single object that's at a fixed distance, such as a screen, then our body, our whole body, can start to shrink inward and feel compressed. This is a fantastic practice to juice up the spine after a day of sitting and integrate the eyes after a day of looking at a screen. Class includes a really unique practice of back bending with different eye variations during belly down back bends. If you enjoy this podcast or previous episodes, then you can do me a really big favor and leave a 5-star rating and write a review. Each review increases the possibility that someone who needs these classes can find them. Or try sharing the episode with a friend. Okay, thanks so much. On to this episode. Remember, it's a live one. All right, welcome. Okay, let's start by doing a little blanket rolling. So you're going to take your blanket and a single blanket roll. So you can grab the short end or the fringe and roll that up. And remember, you can always make it a little smaller, or if you need to make it bigger, you grab another blanket. Put it aside, and then let's lie onto our backs. So just find a Shavasana. As long as it's comfortable for your legs to be long, you can have the legs long. Arms can just be alongside the body.
Great. And go ahead and let your eyes close. Take a moment to sense how you settle. Notice the width of your face, the sense of width. So the width of your forehead, the width of your eyes, and as you sense width, you may also end up seeking it or shifting a little bit to notice how could there be a feeling of width. And so just being curious about this sense of width in your mouth, the inside of the mouth, the lips. Feeling a sense of width from shoulder to shoulder. Noticing the width of your breath as you sense any movement in your ribs. And the sense of width of your pelvis, the back of your pelvis, from one side to the other, the distance from one hip joint to the other. And then just notice your legs and how wide you've placed your legs, the distance from one heel to the other, and any sense of width down at your feet. And then come back to your breath. So the container of your torso, your ribs, your belly, all the way down to your pelvis. And just see if you can begin to notice what's the cue, what's the physical cue that tells you that your exhale is moving into your inhale. And what's the cue that tells you that your inhale is starting to be your exhale? So the exchange, the beginning of the shift from one phase of the cycle of breath to the other. And so it's really a practice of listening for when that moment is, and listening for what it feels like for you. Good. And you can keep with that. Bend your knees and stand your feet. So your feet are about hips distance. And bring your hands behind your head to interlace your fingers behind the head. Great. And go ahead and let your elbows soften towards the floor. So let gravity take the weight of your arms as the shoulders are willing to let them. And again, feel this sense of width from one elbow to the other. And without doing any more of an active stretch. So for some of you, you may feel like you're stretching right now. You're feeling a stretch sensation. Others, this might feel more simple, like there isn't a lot of stretch activation. So we can all feel a sense of looking for or creating width across the chest, out towards the armpits, out towards the elbows, with the inhale breath movement. It's nothing you need to force. It could be mostly in your imagination. At the same time, sense the width of your eyes. So if you are doing anything throughout the day where the eyes are really have a single one pointed focus, maybe it's at a screen, and we're often shifted a little bit forward with our attention. So in this very subtle way, it's almost like you're looking for a peripheral vision right now, and giving your whole system the sign that it can move out of that pattern. Again, that is if it was in a pattern like that. Okay, so keeping your hands here and your elbows wide, if that's okay for you. If you need a little break, come out of it and come back into it. Bring your feet together and your inner knees together. So your legs are like one unit and they'll stay as that one unit. And slowly start to tip your knees over to the left. So your right foot leaves the floor so that the inside edge of the right foot stays in contact with the left foot. And as you move the weight of the legs over to the left, see if you can keep that right shoulder heavy. So the right arm you might feel it sliding a little bit on the mat because it's being tugged by the weight of your legs. But you want to feel like it's real heavy, almost like there's a sandbag on the right side of the chest or near the right armpit. Good. And then bringing the knees back to the center. So we're going quite slow here to start with. And then the knees can go over to the right, nice and slowly. There's a little engagement of the inner thighs so that the left knee wants to stay with the right knee. The left knee almost wants to go beyond the right knee. So you really keep contact there. And the left shoulder and left elbow stay heavy. You feel how the left shoulder gets tugged a little bit by the weight of the legs. And you can let that happen, but try not to lift off the floor too much. Great. And then come back to the middle. So do that to the left and to the right once on your own, and going a little bit slower than you maybe do at first. Just seeing what happens if you invite the body to slow down a little bit, inviting the mind to do the same. And so when the knee is tilt, still feeling that sense of width from elbow to elbow, width across the shoulders, width across the front of the throat. Great. And once you've done another set, once to the left, once to the right, release your hands from behind the head and just draw your knees in towards your chest. And that'll just be the cue for me to know that everybody's gone through their left and right. And when your knees are in towards the chest, you can do a little shifting to one side of the spine and the other, and doing it in a way so that you're actually looking for the tone. The floor and the mat is probably pretty firm. And so you get a lot of interesting feedback just from doing something so simple like this, rolling a little bit to the right of the spine, feeling what the tone of the soft tissue is to the right of the spine, rolling a little to the left of the spine, and just comparing. And does one side yield a little bit more than the other? And could this really simple shifting side to side help create a sense of width across your back? Almost like those back tissues are melting, spreading, opening wide. Okay, you bring your feet back down, roll to your side so you can grab your blanket. So we're going to do a really similar thing, but the blanket will be underneath our upper back. So if you feel like the blanket roll is a little too big, you'll be in a back bend, then just make it smaller. So I unrolled my blanket a little bit here. Whatever you feel is appropriate for you today. So that blanket's going to go around a little bit around bra strap, maybe a little bit higher than that, kind of mid scapula. And we'll interlace the fingers behind the head again. Stay on the feet. And very simple again, just look for that sense of width across the forehead, across the eyes, across the throat. The width that comes with your inhale breath from elbow to elbow. Good, and ease in your jaw and your mouth. And then bring your legs together again, inner feet, inner knees. And start to tip your legs over to the left. Your right foot leaves the floor and go nice and slow. And feel that moment where your right arm does get pulled a little bit. So you can let it get pulled, but it's still trying to drop back. So that right shoulder blade hangs heavy towards the blanket, towards the floor. Yeah, the breath stays simple. And you can come back to the middle. And slowly shifting to the right. So you can really start to do this with your own timing. But again, I encourage you to go maybe slower than you want to. Particularly if you transition really quickly from your work day into class. The mind is moving very quickly. And so actively moving slower with the body can be this great resource for the mind to start to follow. So noticing that our twist here is coming from the bottom, coming from the basement, the legs, the pelvis. And it's not that you need to keep your head stiff, but the twist, notice how far up your spine you feel it. Maybe you feel it in right around where the blanket is, perhaps, right? You feel it in there. Maybe you feel it a little bit higher. You might feel something tiny in your neck. Great. Okay, let that release. Just roll yourself all the way over to one side. Okay, move this blanket aside. Actually, you could bring it up. We're going to lay on our belly now. I always go the other direction. I put my head here when I'm on my belly. You could have your blanket there. We're going to have our forehead on our hands and do a longer sequence on our belly. But if you want something other than your forehead resting on your hands, because sometimes it hurts people's hands when the forehead's resting there, you could put a little bit of blanket under your forehead. So I'm just inviting you to bring that blanket up to the top of the mat. So just transition onto your belly. No kind of graceful transition there. And stack your hands and then bring your forehead onto your hands. So there's where if you want a little bit of fabric or cushion between your hands and your forehead, you could do that. Okay, so just take a moment here to settle on your belly, feeling the parts that really firmly touch the floor, maybe some ribs in the front, some chest tissue, the abdomen. You notice what feels like bony parts and what feels like more soft tissue. And again, look for that transition moment of your breathing. The very beginning, what feels like the very beginning of your inhale, and what feels like the very beginning of your exhale. And go ahead and have your eyes closed. And on your next breath in, you'll start to lift your head. And with your eyes closed, scan the wall in front of you, and then start to scan up that wall and just go to where you can comfortably, and then pause. So you can push down a little bit with your arms. You're coming into this little back bend. And once you feel like you're at a place where, okay, I'm comfortable here. If I went farther, I probably wouldn't be. Then open your eyes and just see where you see. This will be like our little, you'll file that away to see, okay, where do you see on the wall? You can pick a point. And then slowly bring your head back down to your hands. Okay, let's do that one more time. So you could do it with your eyes open or closed. You lift the head, lift the shoulders, look forward towards that wall out in front of you, and continue to lift until you feel like it's time to stop, and you see where your eyes went up the wall. And just what feels simple. And then bring your head down. Okay, so resting the head on the hands with the eyes closed, can you move your eyes down as if they want to look towards your feet? So slowly move your eyes towards your feet. And then smoothly move your eyes so they look forward, like they're looking through the floor. And from there, the eyes will start to look up, like they want to look sort of in the direction of your eyebrows, but think that they're looking far away, right? They're kind of looking at that wall, the head side of your room wall. And then one more time, move the eyes so they look down as if they're trying to look towards your feet smoothly. And then move the eyes forward, straight through the floor, and then up as if towards your eyebrows or as if towards the top of the head. Good. And then let them settle. And as we're doing this work with the eyes, if there's any point your eyes feel fatigue, it means you just need to rest. So give your eyes a rest whenever you need to here. Okay, so now listen here closely. You'll lift your head and your shoulders up, into that little back bend. But as you do it, your eyes are going to look down as if you want to look at your feet. So your eyes are going in a non-habitual way from the rest of you. So slowly start to lift your head away from your hands, but move your eyes down like they want to look towards your chest and look towards your feet. I suggest doing this with the eyes closed. And then as you start to lower your head back down to your forehead, lower your head back down to your hands, your eyes look upward towards your eyebrows. So the eyes are going opposite of the head. So try that one more time. It might feel a little choppy, like it's not smooth. So when you go into the back bend, the eyes look down towards your cheeks, towards your chest. And as you lower the head, your eyes start to look up as if they want to look towards your eyebrows. Great. When you're done with that, just settle for a moment. And then bring your eyes in the more congruent direction. So you can open your eyes and start to lift your head, lift your shoulders, let your eyes start to look up as if the eyes want to kind of curl all the way up to see the top of the head and see where you get here. See if you're moving any farther, whether that be with the eyes or with the whole spine. Good. And then lower your head back down. Okay, rest your head on the hands, bend your right knee, flex your right foot.
And just lift your right leg for a moment. Just see how heavy that right leg is. See what it's like to lift the right leg, how high it goes. And you'll feel your right hamstring engage. And then lower the right leg down, but keep the knee bent. Now push your right knee into the floor really firmly, as if the floor weren't there, that right knee would come in towards your chest, right? It would hug towards your chest. And then let that go. And do that 2 or 3 more times. So you push your right knee into the floor. The right hip flexor will engage a little bit. And then let it go. And breathing is simple. Good. And then just one more time, try lifting the right leg and just see if it feels lighter, if it feels different as you lift it now. And maybe it feels lighter, maybe not. Okay, then lengthen that right leg down. Bend your left leg, flex the left foot. And just lift your left leg. Lift it, see how high it goes. Feel the hamstring engage, the glute engage. Sort of like you're trying to push that foot up onto an imaginary ceiling. And then lower the left leg down, but keep the knee bent. And firmly push the left knee into the floor. If the floor weren't there, your knee would continue to come towards your chest. So maintain that isometric push, maybe for one more breath. And then let it go. And do it 2 more times. Pressing. Checking in, making sure the shoulders are soft still as you press with the knee. Great. So after you let that one go, after you're done pressing, again, just try lifting your left leg and see if it lifts in a different way, a different quality. Great. Okay. And let that go. Lengthen the leg. Okay. Now bring your hands out to the side. So they're almost like a cactus shape. Your forehead can just hover, palms pressed down. With the hands like this, push a little bit, the hands into the floor, and slowly start to lift the head. Maybe your elbows even creep up off the floor, and use your eyes, look up with your eyes, and imagine you could see the top of your head with your eyes, and just see where you're getting to now with the back bend. Did that leg movement do anything for you? Great. And slowly lower down. Okay, stack your hands again. This time, turn your head to the right. And the hands and forearms will more or less stay on the floor. And begin to lift your head. And with your eyes, look behind your right shoulder as if you want to see your right heel. And then slowly lower down. And just do that a few times. We're starting to recruit more and more of our back space, more and more of ourself into this spinal extension in some different ways. So your eyes are really involved. Your eyes are wanting to see that right heel. Yeah, great. And then come down, turn your head over to the left. The jaw's easy. And slowly lifting into that slight back bend, looking with your eyes over the left shoulder as if you want to see the left heel. And then bringing the head back down, doing that a couple of times. And start to coordinate this with your breath so that you're lifting, you're moving into the back bend as you breathe in. So you breathe in, you feel a wide breath. The belly might push a little bit more into the floor as the head floats up. Great. Okay. Bringing the head back down. So forehead on the hands, bend your right knee again. And this time lift your right leg and think about moving your right foot over to the left. So if you had a wall to the left of you, you'd start to roll a little bit onto your left side so that the right foot, it's like the right foot could touch that wall. And I actually do have a wall here. So if you're a little confused about the directions, you can take a peek. So we're twisting again with our starting that twist from the basement, from the legs and the pelvis. And then you can bring that right leg back down. So we'll do it a couple times. I'll keep explaining. So the right knee is bent. And first you just pick up the right leg. But then you think, okay, that right foot wants to move over to the left. Like there's a wall over there. So you start to roll a little bit onto the left side. Let the spine twist. Yeah, your head might want to turn one way or the other. See what your head wants to do. That's right. So the pelvis has to shift. The right side of the pelvis can fully leave the floor. Great. Let that go. Take your right leg long. Do a little shimmy of your tail side to side. And then bend your left leg. And just slowly lift your left leg and just start that process of moving your left foot over to the right, like there's a wall over there. Letting the left hip unweight and rolling. That right leg is just like a log, right? So your leg is cylindrical. So let yourself roll that right leg. And then you come back and do it a couple of times. And just see, does your head want to turn? So which way would your head turn to make this easy? Like what would the easier way to turn your head be? You know, you could try both ways and should be pretty clear. Great. Okay, come back, take your legs long. And bring your arms back out into that cactus shape. Press your palms into the floor. And on the breath in, start to lift the head. Use your eyes, look forward. Start to look up with the eyes, like the eyes could see the top of the head. If you want to keep going, the elbows might start to lift. So you're in this kind of cobra pose. Yeah, but just what feels easy. And again, maybe you're getting a little bit farther. Great. And slowly lower down. Okay, we're going to do one more variation. I think just one more. Take your left arm straight out to the side. So your left palm will be facing down. You're not going to be able to see my left arm. And your right hand, bring it into more of a push-up position, out to the side of you. Yeah, you could be on a fist if you need to for your wrist. Turn your head to the right so you see your right hand. Yeah, great. Bend your right knee, flex the right foot. And now lift the right leg and start to move that right foot over to the left, like you want to bring it to that imaginary wall. You get to push a little bit with your right hand. And you might find yourself all the way onto your left side. Yeah, great. And then bring the right leg back, come back onto your belly. Do it a couple times with this arm variation. Yeah, and see what happens if you keep your left arm really firm so that palm can press down, the arm is straight. See what happens if you turn your head and your eyes look over your right shoulder like you want to see your right heel. And then you come back to your belly. Yeah, great. Okay, let's stick with this side. Next time you come back to the middle, stand your left hand also. So both hands are in this sort of wide push up. The elbows are over the wrists. And move that right, lift the right leg, move the right foot to the left, and start to push up with your hands. Like you might even be able to lift your torso and look over that right shoulder. Yeah, good. And then come back. Yeah, so both hands are active now. You're trying to sort of lifting your weight a little bit with your hands, looking over that right shoulder. And you could imagine that this could bring you up to sit. If your left knee bent, it could bring you up to side sitting.
If that feels like you can make that connection,
Go for it.
so you look over your shoulder and whoops, there you are in side sitting. Yeah, and so the first time the transition might not feel super smooth, but then once you figure out where you're going, then see if you can start to smooth it out. Yeah, where's your pelvis? Knowing where your pelvis is so helpful. Great. Okay, let that rest come back onto your belly.
Take your right arm straight out to the side and stand your left hand into that push-up position. Turn your head to the left. Okay, so your right arm is really strong and straight, palm pushes down. You're not letting that right shoulder sink to the floor, but you can actually lift it up just a little bit. Then bend your left leg, flex the foot, and using your left hand pushing into the floor, just start to roll a little onto the right side. So that left foot leads you there. That left foot wants to go to the right. You might feel a really big stretch in your pec here, the front of the right chest. And then you can start to get your eyes involved, your eyes in your head. So as your left foot goes to the right, you can turn your head to the left, like you want to look over your left shoulder, as if you could follow your left heel and where it's going. Yeah, nice, everyone. Great. Okay, using both hands. So both hands in that push-up position. So now the strength of your arms can lift the head and the shoulders a little bit more. So maybe you can look over your left shoulder and maybe you can see that left foot. That's right. And then if you want to start to link the movement into that transition to come up to side sitting. Come up and come down. Yeah, and you might be getting a little bit of an arm workout, and there's nothing wrong with that. But noticing the smoothness, those moments, you might go a little slower. Feel those moments where maybe you're not quite sure where you are in space, and so it's like a clunk clunk rather than a smooth action. Great. Okay, give that a rest. Stack your hands, forehead on your hands. And take a big belly breath. Let the abdomen expand towards the floor. Go ahead, slide your arms out into a cactus shape. Palms firmly pressed down. Slowly start to lift your head. Look up with your eyes. Let your eyes continue to look up beyond your eyebrows as if your eyes could see the top of your head. Back of the head moves back. Your elbows can lift. And again, just see where you are in your back bend. If it's, if your eyes are getting a little farther, if your whole self is getting a little farther. Great. And then come down. Okay, bring your hands more underneath you. Press back to child's pose. Because that was actually a lot of back bending. So you can have your legs together right underneath you. Take a couple of full nourishing breaths into the low back. And in this child's pose, just activate your arms. So arms are forward. Walk your hands another inch forward so that your forearms lift, your elbows are straight. Palms are pressing down. Shoulder blades are trying to move wide so we can go back to that width practice. Sensing width across the chest. Keep your right hand where it is, but plant your left hand on top of your right hand. And see if you can feel the weight of your hips moving back towards your left heel. Go ahead and let your shoulder blades slide in the direction of your head. And so they slide away from your pelvis. And that doesn't mean that we want to roll the arms inward and kind of squeeze the sides of the neck. So again, you're looking for that width. Okay, take your left hand back over to the left. So the arms feel a little more symmetric in their shape. They might not feel even though, because we've just done one side. And then stack your right hand onto your left. Really keep that right hand firm and feel the pelvis, weight of the pelvis, trying to shift back towards your right heel. Yeah, good. And many of you are modifying already. As you know, you need to for the knees. If the knee flexion, the knees don't want to flex so deeply, then your pelvis is just a little higher. Great. Okay, bring your right hand back out so the two arms are parallel. Good. Come forward up to your hands and your knees. Good. Pad those knees if you need to. So hands right underneath shoulders. Take an exhalation and round into a cat spine, drawing the chin in. We're going to stay there in our cat spine for just a couple breaths. So hands push down, shoulder blades widen. Really let the weight of the head, like bowling ball, heavy head drop. Tail is heavy. And particularly on your exhalation, you can feel the deep lower belly engaging, moving back towards your spine. And you can go as far as feeling like you're curling your tail between the legs. Good. And then inhale, come through neutral and all the way into your cow spine. And as you come into your cow spine, so sitting bones are lifting, chest comes forward, and let's use our eyes like we were in that back bend practice. So your eyes go up, your eyes try to see the top of your head, the throat opens. Shoulder blades are staying out of the ears now. So you're really sliding those shoulder blades down the back. Great. And then come back to neutral. Okay, now turn your head to the right. So see the right side of your room, just the amount that's comfortable. And you're going to cow spine with your head turned to the right. And with your eyes, look towards your right sitting bone. You might side bend a little bit to the right. That's okay. And then round your back into cat spine. Your head is still turned to the right. You try to look under your right armpit to the back of your room. You're going to go cat and cow spine a couple times with the head turned to the left. Now, your eyes are a really big part of this. So your eyes try to see your right sitting bone. And then your eyes try to see underneath your right armpit. Yeah, so cat and cow with a little bias. Great. Okay, come back through center. Just feel center for a moment. Long spine, crown of the head reaching forward. And feel the two sides of the neck. Like, did you yank that head too far over to one side? Like, make sure that you're being kind with these movements, kind to yourself. Then turn your head to the left. So any amount, it could be very small, and your brain will still know. And arch the back. Your eyes want to look over your left shoulder as if to see your left sitting bone. And then rounding the back into cat spine. Your eyes look under your armpit, and maybe back towards your left hip. And going back and forth a couple of times with this bias. Our head and our eyes are to the left. And that's going to affect then your side body. You might feel that your left side ribs gather a little bit. Great. Okay, come back to the middle and come down to your forearms. So you want your forearms to be parallel.
Okay, turn your head to the right. Okay, again, an amount that feels comfortable that you can sustain, and arch the back here. Look over that right shoulder, try to see the right sitting bone, and then round your back here. Your head still turns to the right, and you can look again under your arm or into that space between your right arm and your right leg. So cat and cow spine on forearms with the head biased to the right. You know, there's this infinite number of variations of what we can do with the skeleton. So we're just doing some small little shifts with some really familiar patterns. Great. Okay, coming through center, and then just right away, your head can turn to the left. And just start that cat and cow with your head turned to the left. You want to very much include your eyes. You know, I keep emphasizing that, but when your eyes seek something, the rest of the spine gets a really big cue to follow. And so it's another technique here that we're using to maybe bring some habits to unhabituate something from your work day. Again, if you happen to be looking at a screen or something like that out in front of you. Okay, let that rest and come back up to your hands and your knees. Okay, let's turn the toes under. You're going to walk your hands back towards your feet. We're going to bypass down dog. We're just going to fold into Uttanasana for a moment. Now, we haven't done a ton for our hamstrings, so please start with a more of a rag doll or a child's pose Uttanasana. So your knees are a little bit more bent. Your arms are hanging. Feel the feet firmly, feel all 10 toe pads. Find some length in the back of the neck just because of that weight of the head. And then just do a really simple turning of your head to the right, and like you want to see, again, almost like underneath your right armpit, turning the head to the left. That, as if that head is still that bowling ball, it is sort of turning on a spine that is a flexible cord or flexible string. Great. From here, walk your hands forward out to downward facing dog. So feet are about hips distance, hands are shoulder distance. Knees can be a little bit bent. You have a micro bend in the elbows, firmly pushing the hands down and forward. The force through your arms is trying to push the weight farther back into your legs. The top of the thigh is pressed back. Good. The sitting bones are cresting up so that you're looking for length in the lower back. And that's a more important cue for anybody that feels like their lower back is rounding a little bit. Yeah, good. Great. Slowly lower your knees down. We're going to step the right foot to the outside of the right hand. So swing that foot forward. So that right foot's to the outside of the right hand. Unless you needed to say something, Sulina, please let me know. But okay, so with the hands right in line with the right foot, you're just going to make some little circles of your whole self. I'm thinking of the pelvis circling, right? But your whole self gets to circle. Your right foot stays really firm where it's at. Yeah, you might feel this already in your right hamstring. Yeah, reverse the circle. Make sure that you are supporting that back knee if we've been on our knees a fair amount. So give it a little bit of extra cushion if you need to.
Great. Okay, so now pause that circle. Keep your hands where they're at. Inhale, arch the back into cow spine. Now, this is a totally different story because that right hamstring is going to really feel it. So don't force anything with your cow spine. And this is for the right hamstring. And then exhale, round your back into cat. Drop the head, curl the tail, and slowly go back and forth. And if you want to spend a little bit more time in your cow spine, if you feel that through the hamstring, you can stay there. So what's happening is we're trying to crest those sitting bones up, right? Sitting bones are trying to really lift to the ceiling, and that requires more length in the hamstring. Great. Okay, come to neutral. Move those blocks out of the way. We're going to stay with this position for one more thing, but the blocks are going to be in our way. So move them out of the way. Keep your right foot where it's at and your left hand where it's at, and bring your right hand to the back of your head. Push the back of your head a little bit into your hand so your face moves away from the floor. And on an exhalation, start to turn to the right. So rotate your thoracic spine to the right. Lift your chest out of the floor, out of your left arm. Feel that width from your left hand all the way up to your right elbow. Good. And then allow your eyes to start to turn to see your right elbow. So you can let your head turn a little bit if that's comfortable for your neck. Nice. Slowly release down. Bring that right hand down to the inside of the right foot. Turn the back toes under. Pick up the back knee. Step back to down dog. And feel the two sides in down dog. The length of your right side body compared to the length of your left side body. And as you reach both hip creases up and back, does one feel different? Does one feel like it has more space, or like the breath is moving into it or towards it differently? Great. All right, bring your knees down. Step your left foot to the outside of your left hand. Now, if your wrists are getting tired, come up to fists, so that you don't have to have that strong flexion in the wrists. And you'll just start those circles. So your whole self is circling. I'm thinking of the pelvis starting the circle, but you'll feel the circle, along the surface of the right knee. The left knee will be moving through a circle in space. Yeah, that's right. Reverse the circle. Okay, and then come back to a quiet place in the middle. Your hands are still in line with your left foot. Take a breath in, arch the back into cow spine. Looking up with your eyes, opening the chest. And then exhale, rounding. Again, moving through those two positions of the spine. You can move at your own pace. Keeping the left foot really firmly planted, so the grounding of the left foot into the floor can actually really help to steer the movement throughout your whole self. Great. Come to neutral. You'll keep your right hand where it's at. Your left hand will come behind the head. Your left elbow points out to the side. So find neutral spine. Crown of the head reaches forward, and then push the back of the head into your hand a little bit so that your throat and your face move away from the floor, maybe a centimeter. From there, start to turn to the left. Feeling from the waist up to your head, the rotation is most prominent. And then instead of dropping the weight into that right hand, so your right hand pushes the floor away and everything else is trying to pull away from the floor so that you look for that width from your right hand to your left elbow. And the head can lean back a little bit into the hand. And then if it feels okay and appropriate, the eyes can start to turn to look for your left elbow. The eyes and the head will follow. Are you breathing? Please breathe. Good. Slowly let that release. Bring your left hand down, plant your palms firmly, turn the back toes under, lift the back knee, and press back to down dog. All right, let's come forward to plank and then lower your knees, come all the way onto your belly. Bring your arms back out into that cactus shape. Okay, as you start to breathe in, feel the belly expand towards the floor, lift the head, use your hands, push into the floor, scan with your eyes up the wall, up the ceiling, as if your eyes then want to see the top of the head, the elbows can lift. And again, see where you're at, see how this is coming along. And then slowly lower. And turn your head to the right. Same thing with the head turned to the right, lifting into this modified cobra and looking behind your shoulder, looking for that right heel. Nice. Slowly lower. And then last time, turning the head to the left, looking over the left shoulder, towards the left heel. Great. And then just let that rest. Stack your hands for a moment. All right, let's transition onto our back. So you could do a little fish flop, flop over, keep your head where it's at. Or if you want wherever you want your head to be for Shavasana, go ahead and bring it there. Okay, so come onto your back and stand your feet. So that was a lot of posterior chain, back chain work. So your hamstrings you might feel your hamstrings right now. You might feel your whole back has worked a bit. So take your right leg straight up towards the ceiling, flex the ankle. So you feel a little length through the hamstring. And then without your hands, bring your right ankle to your left thigh for a figure 4. Keep your right ankle flexed and go back and forth between those two shapes a couple times. So right leg straight up to the ceiling and then right ankle to left thigh. And if that feels really simple for you, then what you can do to make it a little bit more challenging is pick up your left foot and bring your left thigh closer to your chest so that as you bring the right leg into figure 4, you have to work a little bit harder. That hip has to work a little bit harder to get there. Great. The next time that right ankle comes to the left thigh, keep it there. Do pick up your left foot, bring the hands behind the left thigh, and just gently with your hands, slowly start to bring the legs towards the chest. And as the legs come towards the chest, can you feel the sense of your back space moving wider, as if it could spread all the way out to the side edges of your mat?
Good. Keep the figure 4 shape close in towards the body, but shift your legs to the left an inch, maybe 2 inches. You're still trying to widen your right knee, moving your right knee away from your right shoulder. Good. Bring it back to center. Stand both feet. Take your left leg straight up towards the ceiling. Bring that left ankle to the right thigh. Let that knee open. And then going back and forth between those two positions of the leg. And while you're doing it, you could bring your hands to your front hip points. So right now we're looking for an isolation of the femur bone within the hip joint so that your pelvis stays really quiet right now. And if it's really simple for you or easy for you to take your leg into figure 4, then you get to move the target. Your right foot leaves the floor and you can keep your right thigh a little closer to you so that your left leg has to work a little harder to get there into that figure 4. Yeah, how's your breathing now? Okay, next time you're in figure 4, stay there. Pick the right foot up, hands come behind the right thigh, and gently start to bring the legs in. The eyes can close. And sense what happens across your back as your legs come a little closer towards the chest. And keeping with the figure 4, just shift your legs, tilt your legs an inch or maybe 2 inches to the right. So you feel a little bit more weight coming into the right side of the pelvis, a little bit more weight on the right side of the spine. Great. Slowly bring that back to center. Release the shape of the legs. Let your legs lengthen long. And see if there's any way that your body wants to be supported here in Shavasana. So you could place a bolster under your thighs, a rolled up blanket, or your 2 blocks can work as a bolster there. Maybe you want just a really small lift under your head. You can turn the lights down. You can cover your eyes. Make sure that you're warm enough. And go ahead and let your limbs spread as wide as they'd like to. So placing your limbs in a way where you feel like there's space for the back to widen. And again, notice the width of your face. The width across your forehead. A sensation that the eyes could widen from one another. You might feel the eyes as these cylinders that are surrounded by a pool of liquid. And so the eyes, they drift, they begin to float just a little away from one another. And that can just be an image. You're not forcing anything to happen. And the sensation of width inside your mouth from cheek to cheek. And the width across your shoulders. Tuning in ever more subtle, with ever more subtlety of what's going on. It's a practice of noticing. And as you become aware of some tension, may it dissipate. You might even say that in your mind if you start to sense a little tension. May it dissipate. May it begin to dissolve. Sensing the width of your pelvis across the back of your pelvis. From the front of one hip joint across to the front of the other hip joint. Feeling the long bones of the legs and how the soft tissue around those bones can release and spread, widen into the floor. And as you become aware of tension, may it dissipate. And very quietly, without changing your breath, begin to notice the moment where your exhale transitions to your inhale. And when your inhale transitions to your exhale. So you can just take a little time here, finding some movement. Great. And when you're ready, you can roll to your side. And make your way up to a comfortable seat. And bring the palms together. May you be free of inner and outer harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. And may you care for yourself with joy. And take a breath in. Exhale. Namaste.
Are you enjoying this podcast? I've chosen to offer these audio recordings freely for over 15 years. I do this because research shows yoga, yoga nidra, and Feldenkrais to be valuable practices, those which I would like to share widely. Dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, has always been a pillar of my business. And more generally, dana is the inclination to give without expecting any form of repayment. It does, however, take a fair amount of time, effort, and cost to maintain and keep the podcasts available. If you feel you've benefited from what you've learned from these classes, then please do consider making a contribution towards the maintenance and upkeep of the classes. It will help ensure that I can continue to offer the podcast classes freely and keep generating new material. Give what you can, give what feels good. If it's too little, it won't feel good. If it's too much, it won't feel good. Links to support the show monetarily can be found in the show notes. And other ways to give include sharing the podcast with others, leaving a 5-star rating and review, or just sending me an email with how the classes have affected you. Thanks so much.